Okay, so we've heard already a lot about education, building character, and resilience so far. And so today, for the last session, I know it's late, and I'm completely aware of it. That it was a long day for all of you, so I will try to not to get too long. But today, I would love for you to listen about the youngest generation, since they are our future, and we know it. In order for us to talk about generational relationships, I would first like to stop us with a very brief characteristics of the following generations since the end of the World War II. And we know them. You have certainly encountered this already. And everyone now can safely see where you are on this scale, right? So we have baby boomers, born between 46, 64. Do we have some? Then we have Gen X, born between 65, 79. Oh, yeah, that's a big group. Okay. Then millennials, born between 80, 94. Oh, we do have some. Gen Z, 95 to 09. Yeah, we do have some. Oh, that's a very big. Oh my gosh, they're from Poland. And we have Gen Alpha. Yay! We wish, yeah. Okay, of course, this division is kind of, 1 year here, 1 year there, but it's just general division that we know. And okay, one more thing here, because sometimes our teenagers, they really tend to call all of us baby boomers. So now you can tell them they're wrong, okay? If you are born somewhere 65, 79, you're X, not baby boomer. Just to make it clarified. So baby boomers are the grandparents and great-grandparents of today's Gen Z and Alpha. Gen X are primarily the parents of Generation Z and also some grandparents of Generation Alpha. Millennials, partly the parents of Generation Z, and mainly parents of Gen Alpha. And Gen Z is already, or is about to become parents of Gen Alpha and the Beta, that generation that follows in 2025. Since the 21st century primarily belongs to the digital age, globalization, and new technologies, it is not surprising that generational differences are becoming more and more visible. Therefore, I would like to focus today on characteristics of the latest and youngest generation and try to give us a little insight into their lives. It will help us to understand what they lack in order to be resilient nowadays. So today's Alpha generation, often referred as always on, NetGen, digital natives, Google Kids, according to research by scientists, is likely to be the largest in numbers and the richest generation, the most culturally diverse, with access to information not experienced by any other generations. The leaders of the future, completely on board with technology. According to all simulations, this will be also the generation that will live the longest. Many of them will see and experience life in 22nd century. It is predicted that in 2025, there will be more than 2 billion of them. The largest part will be in Asia, which is the largest number in the history of the whole world in general, as far as one generation is concerned. Two Australian researchers who have extensively studied the topic of the Alpha generation have come to a very important conclusion that I want to stress for you. I believe it's very relevant in education in general. If the organizations want to not only exist, but thrive and flourish, then understanding Generation Alpha is imperative. It's not our choice. It's not that we can say, I don't really want to get to know them. I don't understand them at all. This is imperative. This is necessary for us because they are future leaders. Today's alpha generation was born, so to speak, with a smartphone in a hand. Social media is their natural habitat of today's 8 to 12-year-olds, where they build their identities, post their own YouTube videos, interact with friends via Snapchat or Instagram or TikTok. And studies in the US show that the average child of this age, 8 to 12, spends 4 hours, 44 minutes in front of a screen, and teenagers age 13 to 18, 7 hours, 22 minutes. We can safely assume that Europe is not significantly different from these statistics in the States. Many websites are aimed precisely at this demographic group, future consumers and influencers, setting the tone for progress in various departments of life. Although they are today in elementary school, they are the lens through which we should view the next decades. This is the generation that is not only developing the fastest in terms of technology, but also maturing physically, mentally, and socially at the fastest pace. It's worth to mention that their puberty starts earlier, but also lasts longer. Just look at the number of marriages of Gen Z right now at an increasingly later age today. The postponement of decisions about having children, taking loans, careers. This is a generation that will study longer, stay home with their parents longer. As I mentioned earlier also, the alpha generation is defined by their almost symbiotic relationship with technology because it's all they've known since birth. There is some interesting fact about the speeding up of our world. Look how much time was needed to reach 50 million users. Radio, 38 years. TV, 13 years. iPod, some of you maybe know, this is something to listen to music, 4 years. It was long ago. Internet, 3 years. Facebook, 1 year. Pokemon Go, that's a game, street game, that you can go with your phone and catch virtual pets. 19 days. So even looking at this makes us feel, okay, this world is crazy. I mean, it's speeding up in a way that we are completely not prepared for. And this is also what Generation Alpha faces every day. They have intentionally become part of a global experiment in which screens are placed in front of children as soothers, entertainers, and helpers. Their exposure to technology at the formative age of the individual will have a colossal impact when it comes to their entire lives. And we must not forget this. Unfortunately, it is not without its impact on them, their social and psychological development. In elementary school, we already observe, you probably as teachers notice that a much shorter attention span among students, the expectation of reducing learning to fun in every situation. If it's not fun, I'm not gonna learn. I'd be bored. Weaker social interactions with peers. They are far more better educated formally, weaker but also less adept in useful skills, assessing risks, setting and achieving goals, and developing practical competences. Although it is already predicted that far more of them will get a college education, and as many as 65% of those right now in elementary school will pursue more than a dozen professions during their lives, many of which we don't know even yet. So it's not like us teaching for 20 years. in one school. It's going to be a different world. So what does it mean for us? The next slides that I will show you, they will show us what parents think about preparing their children for the adult world. That was also the research that was taken in Australia, but with the note that it's very similar in the US and in Europe. So how, according to parents, kids are well equipped in character skills, traits, actually. So how do parents rate the character traits of Gen Alpha? How many of them think that today's students are very well equipped? And you can see curiosity, 60%, adaptability, 50%, cultural sensitivity, 49%, perseverance, 48%, initiative, 47%, leadership, 42%, and I stress curiosity and leadership, as you can see, the highest and the lowest. Then we have another study, according to parents, how well are they equipped in competences? So how many of the parents think that their kids are very well equipped? Digital skills, 60%, creativity, 57%, teamwork, 52%, problem solving, 48%, self-presentation skills, 47%, and critical thinking, 42%. Again, we have the highest and the lowest. So look, what's the lowest ranked? It's leadership and critical thinking. It's a very important piece of information for all of us in context of schools, our churches, different organizations, youth groups, and leadership for years to come related to how the Alpha Gen will view work in general. According to studies by demographers and sociologists even today, a very important life component at work for the Alpha generation will be the well-being. It already is for Gen Z. Research on the topic already indicates that as many as 72% of employees consider well-being at work to be absolutely most important and at the top of the list ahead of the other 16 components. Well-being is the most important thing. So even today, among today's Gen Z entering the market, there is a huge expectation for growth and well-being and far less tolerance for organizations that hinder it. Or maybe not even hinder it, but they're not for it so much. Already corporations and companies are hiring well-being managers. And specific apps are focused on flourishing of one's well-being. We can imagine that this trend will only increase in the years to come. Another important area, just think about it having in mind all of you heard already about resilience and character building. Another important area of research is the challenges of parenting. And that's also for others working with younger generation for us. In addition to other general challenges related to adolescent moment, where they are, other challenges related to the digital world have arisen, to which it's no longer possible to turn a blind eye. It's important for parents, for teachers, for all kinds of leaders. Internet addiction, constant monitoring of time and content for safety reasons, healthy reasons, cyberbullying, a phenomenon common in today's elementary and high schools. You probably also heard about it, have seen it, and talked with kids about it. Different kinds of chat rooms, Snapchat, spotted sites where anyone can write about yourself anything. And it's just like a bulletin board. but online, stays forever. And you can find out a lot of unpleasant things about yourself, and nobody knows who did it. Managing content that will be child-friendly, searching for safe sites, offering children what is relevant. I don't know if all of you remember, or how many of you remember, that Facebook is from 13 years old. Who cares today? Who obeys that? We have kids that are 7 or 8 and have their accounts on social media, and parents allow it. While these are very specific challenges, it should not be forgotten that parents of today's alpha generation are mostly millennials, the ones who have also been shaped significantly in their life by digital world. So there is hope. They may be better equipped to navigate these tasks than previous generations. But for us, it's a lot of time to learn. For 21st century parents, the input of their own parents and the wise advice of grandparents are very important. The role of grandparents has grown in our society as they play an important role in the lives of the Gen Alpha. They have deep life experience and knowledge that they can instill in their grandchildren. Grandparents are now taking on a greater caregiving role. As millennials, the parents of Alpha are working more. As we look to the future and the coming decade to best serve the next generation, it is important to take the time to understand them and to give them space to engage. We must learn to communicate with them in a way that speaks their language. It's not the time to get angry about them. It's not the time to ignore their needs. It's not the time to say, well, in our times that was better. We just have to understand them, at least try. What worked for millennials may not work for Gen Alpha. And what was effective in leadership style in the 20th century, be less effective in the 21st. And same with education. We have the same challenges. So the Gen Alpha should be equipped with the skills and competencies that will enable them to thrive in the era of constant change. This should be a second name of our world today, constant change. The way we equip this generation will be different than in the past, because according to the researchers, the Alpha generation does not need the same structures, hierarchies, or a traditional approach to authority, because we live in a more collaborative era. What does it mean for us in schools? Teamwork, better together. That's gonna be the values for Gen Alpha on an everyday basis. As this is the generation most familiar with digital technologies in history and with the most robots at every turn, interpersonal skills will become more important than ever for Alpha. To lead them well, it is essential to give them opportunities to grow, to allow them to experiment, and to fail. This is the key to building their resilience. We talked a little about it in our workshop before, that we tend to give them fast solutions, fix their problems. But we have to let them make their own mistakes. We are doing mistakes all the time. We did them in the past. They are not different. Since as a therapist, I meet with many teens and their parents, let me quote a few stories straight from the counseling office. Of course, different names and ages and stuff, but these are real stories, and I want you to listen to them. Anna, 15 years old, has been experiencing a significant drop in mood for several months, which has begun to interfere with her daily functioning. Her parents thought it was a teenager laziness, but agreed to visit the counseling center. Anna has a history of attempted suicide and self-harm. When asked what keeps her alive, she answers, 5 people. They are the members of a Korean boys band who have become closer to her than a family. That's a real story. And I'm telling you, when I heard this, sitting in front of her, 5 people, I was like ready to jump. Wow, that's a huge resource. 5 people in your life. And then she's like explaining who are these 5 people that she never met and probably will never meet in person. But these are people who are posting on YouTube or TikTok their stories. Their stories how they dealt with anorexia, depression, how they survived through different hard times in their lives. So they identify with this. Victor, age 10, asked his mother to visit the counseling center because he wants to talk about the fact that he doesn't like people. After a brief conversation, it turned out that Victor had health problems before the COVID-19 pandemic and did not participate in all the lessons. Remote learning was a big relief for him, but it also resulted in an aversion to any social contact. Today, Victor says he has no friends and he doesn't need them. And going to school has become a huge challenge. Camila, 17 years old, struggles to define her identity. She's afraid to talk to her parents because she thinks they won't understand her. They constantly pick on her style of dress, the kind of music she listens, friends that she goes out with in the evenings. And what do? They sit in a park in a big group and talk about hopelessness around them. Camila wants to leave for London. She says it will be easier and more pleasant there. Igor, 18 years old, sent by his parents to the counseling center because he has stress problems. He starts the conversation with the words, "And do you know how many times I've already tried to pass my driver license exam? 8. Can you imagine a bigger loser? After the last exam, my father did not even pick me up from the square, just told me to go home alone and hung up on me." Real stories. Actually, this one has a very nice ending. And after, 3 months probably from when we stopped meetings, he called the counseling center to leave the message that he passed the exam on the 10th time, and his dad was really happy about it. So yeah, there are some nice stories too. So I could really cite so many stories like this, and they're all real people. And I'm curious, what is your reaction? What do you feel when you listen to this? How serious are those problems, and how much can be ignored? To what extent do we as adults actually try to understand the next generation, and to what extent we just push away, sometimes unconsciously, their struggles by briefly saying, "In my days, that was really difficult." As you for sure notice, the most important human needs is for acceptance, security, belonging. This is what God put in our hearts, and it didn't change. And you can see through these stories, this is exactly about it. And it doesn't matter what age that person is. We need a bond with others, a sense that someone cares about us, and our opinions. Talking to children and young people reinforces my belief that very often we as adults deny them this right to be safe and loved. Sometimes we just do it not even thinking about it. Sometimes it's just one sentence too much. Sometimes it's just a gesture. But we are adults. And really, I'm telling you that there are moments I'm ashamed of myself when I hear the stories from the teens, because we can do better. We know better. We were forgiven and accepted by the all-powerful God. So what then should we do? How to help them to get through this difficult in itself period of growing up in the age of today's problems? How to understand the next generation? There are several things that we as adults can do better and more often. Very simple. No tricks here. Let's be authentic. Let's not always act as the all-knowing expert who already knows and has to push his opinions through at all costs. It's an art to admit a mistake in judgment, but I guarantee you that it will ensure greater trust and willingness to talk on the part of the teenagers. Let's be attentive and willing to listen. Let's not underestimate disturbing signals behavior. Let's talk to parents about our observations. Listen to what teenagers say between the lines. They say a lot between the lines. And such messages are very often a silent cry for help from us. They are seeking safety and love. Let's be empathetic. The age of adolescence brings with a lot of anxiety, irrational, according to our judgment, reactions, uncertainties. So a young person like us has the right to a worse day, bad morning, fatigue. So let's not immediately assume bad intentions, because their day schedule is completely different. Their hours of sleeping are different. It's biological also. And let's be available. This is the most important part. Less and less time we spend together. We work more. We are occupied with different things. We as adults are occupied with social media. We don't have time for our kids at home. So let's be interested. Let's ask about what they are interested in. Let's find out who is Kanye West or Travis Scott. Let's just ask them the questions. Even if we don't understand it, let's show sincere and genuine interest. Just talk. Sometimes we hesitate to talk with them because we think they are not interested in talking with us. But we have to start. Not many of them will come up to us and say, hey, today I just want to talk with you. Not many of them. So I just want you to leave with one encouragement. And I hope if you forget everything from this session, I want you to remember this one. Think about it as a day with your teenager, okay? This is how much it has during the day. Okay, he slept. Then he went to school. Then he came home, dinner, some homework, sitting alone in his room, I don't know, listening to music, gaming, whatever, just doing something we don't know. And this is how much is left. And I want you to think about it as an encouragement, okay? Because we can think about it, oh, it's not much, let's not bother. Hey, that's what you have. Let's bother. We can choose how we use this time. We can choose if we show them the love of Christ, if we show them that we are interested in them, we can encourage them here. Because, as you've heard, we have over 8,000 hours in our schools to do so through this time. Let them really think about us as their bigger fans, as people who want them to flourish, to thrive, and as people who really want to understand them, even if we don't agree with everything. They don't really need us to agree with everything. It's our perception. But talking to us, sometimes arguing with us, discussing stuff with us, it's their development, and we can use it for Christ. And we can use it in a way that will be really, really surprising to you. And this is what I'm wishing to all of us, and for myself, since I have 3 teenagers at home. Thank you so much.